Hello, my name is Cowell, and today I'm going to be demonstrating mixed media and do a flower painting for you. So during lockdown I did a lot of tidying up and came across some old paintings, so I'm going to be recycling some of these old paintings and show you what I've done with them. During lockdown I went through a lot of my paintings and decided to try and recycle and see if I could reuse some of the frames that I had. So I've dismantled the frame and taken a painting out, but left me with the glass and the mount and of course the outside frame. So today I'm going to be showing you how I came up with this idea of recycling my old frames. You keep the mount, you'll be using that mount quite a bit, and I'm just making sure that I've got it all loose, but basically take the backing board off, remove the painting, remove the frame, and the thing we're going to be doing today is actually working on the both surfaces, both the front surface as well as the back surface. What I'm going to do is put the mount inside the frame and then using just a felt tip pen. It could be any felt tip pen. You'll need a ruler, of course. And then I'm outlining the inner aperture of the mount, because that is the area that we're actually going to be painting on our glass with. So just using a felt tip pen, just do the inner edges of your mount. And if you make a mistake, so I've just done a stroke on the glass like that, it's very easy to remove. I use wet ones. You can use baby wipes, anything like that, and it'll just remove on the top surface any of the felt tip pen. It's very handy for removing any marks on your hands as well as on your actual mount. You need a big piece of paper, so I'm using a sketch pad which will fit inside the inside of the mount, and just ordinary sketch paper will do. And what I did was I did a design of some poppies, making sure that it fits inside the mount before I started. And of course I drew over them with the felt tip pen so that I could really see what was going on. I'm going to slide this drawing of the poppies underneath my outer piece of glass, and I quite like working inside the frame. So just outlining the poppies. We're going to speed this part up a little bit. Obviously I don't draw as fast as this, but because this is a demonstration, I have asked my editor to just speed it up a bit, but you can take as much time as you want to do this part of it. Please feel free to copy this particular poppy drawing that I've got. I will send you the link to it, but please do me a favor, just change it. Reverse it, paint it pink, paint it purple, just make sure you change it a bit or add some daisies or whatever to it so that it becomes yours. So the drawing done with the felt tip is done on the top surface, and I'm just putting it back into the frame so that you can see. The outliner that I use is the Pebeo, P-E-B-E-O outliner. I'm using the black. So working on the inside surface of the glass, I am squeezing the outliner out and going around every single petal. Do it quite slowly. This is a speeded up version of my work simply because it does take quite a bit of time. You've got to learn to put all the details in now before you put the paint on top. So I'm putting in little spotty bits and lots of stamens and a lot of detail onto the petals. And it's got to dry, so you've got to leave it for, I don't know, about 3/4 of an hour to an hour until it is touch dry before you can start painting on it. Take your time. I'm going to also do the outside border. So painting on the inside surface of the glass. This is going to be inside the actual frame. I'm squeezing out the Pebeo outliner. Comes in many colors. It comes in black, it comes in gold, silver, pewter, white, red, and I think blue as well. I order all my products from the SAA. but if you go onto my website and have a look, you'll be able to find where I get all my products from. But that's a Pebeo outliner. Once you've done all of that, you then allow it to dry, and then I use transparent paint. I'm using glass paint. This is once again the Pebeo paint, but I'm using, actually you pick these up in coffee shops. It's the little wooden pieces that you stir your coffee with, and I usually take them home, so that I've got quite a nice collection. Don't use a paintbrush, it creates too many bubbles in your paint. And I'm dropping an orange in. This is Pebeo glass paint that I'm using here. I use more than one color, so I'm using an orange first, and then a little later on I'll be adding in a darker color. You can mix solvent glass paint with water-based paint. You get some quite interesting effects with it. So really, 1 or 2 glass paint containers will do. That's a water-based, very dark burgundy color that I'm dropping into the solvent-based paint, and it just gives you some very interesting effects. So do be quite experimental with it all. I'm going to allow all this paint to dry, and then of course add many more colors. I'm going to show you one that I've done earlier, just so that for the purposes of the video, I'm showing you all the different steps. So once again, painted on the inside. You can see I've used a very dark red, an orangey color, and filled in all the bits of petal, and also a bit of gold leaf I've put in, just to give it a bit of zing. So you've then got to remove all the felt tip drawing from your outside edge of the glass, and I'm using a wet one to do that. If you do this project over a few days, you might have to really work quite hard on that outside surface. But there it is, ready to go. And we're now going to have a look at doing the inside part. I'm working on the backing board, and I've taken my original sketch of my poppies and put it on. And I'm going to trace them off using a product called Trace Down. It's a fabulous product. It's a graphic tracing paper, and you can get this from the SAA as well. Put your design, put your graphic paper on, and then put your design on. And once again, just using a pencil, just trace off. I'm going to check that I've got it all inside the mount, that it's working with the mount. Trace around the edge. And then, of course, I'm going to trace off my poppies and then start working the background. So this part is also going to be speeded up a little, so that you're not just watching me draw. Going around all the edges of the poppies just to make sure I've got it down. And the idea is that you look through the glass painting onto a background, you get a sort of 3D effect. Well, that's the idea that I'm trying to achieve, so we'll see what happens. Now, once I'd got that tracing off, I then decided to use tissue paper, and this is just regular, very cheap tissue paper that you can buy. So I got that from Hobbycraft, and I scrunched it all up, and then using a Pritt stick glue, I get to glue the tissue paper all the way around the edge of the poppies. And the reason for this is to create a bit of texture and a bit of, I don't know, a bit of interest into the background, so it's not all just paint. I find if you push it down in a single layer and just scrunch it with your fingers, it works best. I just work very slowly all the way, pardon me, around your poppies. And you can always trim it up later before you put the paint on. So just using my Pritt stick and going all the way around the poppy, scrunching it up, putting it on, and then of course you let that dry. And it gives you some very nice soft effect. Pardon me. Right, here's one I've done earlier. There it goes. Now you will notice that I've lost the shape of the poppies on this one. I got a bit carried away. So once again, you can trace the poppy shape back on using your trace down, or you can just go in and paint. I'm deciding to show you how I did the background just for speed of demonstration. And once the tissue paper is dry, I used a yellow acrylic paint and a white acrylic paint and a bit of gold, quinacridone gold. It's your choice of colours here. I just thought poppies always look nice in a field of wheat, so I'd go with the yellowy colours. Now I'm going to do something quite strange. I'm going to use the acrylic paint to glue down any edges of the tissue paper that's standing out. So once again, very speeded up work going on, but you'll see what I'm doing. I'm doing a sort of crisscross paintbrush technique and just really putting lots of paint on, just varying the tone a little, using a bit of the gold, a little bit of the white, a little bit of the yellow, and covering the whole surface with acrylic paint, using the acrylic paint almost as a glue, and pushing all the little edges that are sticking out down. You want your paper to lie very flat on the board. You don't want any bits sticking out. Now, of course, being acrylic, it's going to dry really, really quickly, so you'll be able to paint on top of it fairly quickly. As soon as it's dry, trace off my poppies once again, and then using some acrylic paint, I'll be painting on top. Here's one I've done earlier. I've traced it all off and I've painted it and put a bit of green stalky bits on it, and the whole idea is that you get a sort of 3D. So you go back to your painting in the frame, put your mount on, put your backing board on, turn it over, and there's your 3D effect of the poppies in the frame. And it's quite a nice effect. I think I would probably space it a little bit, put a few little spaces between the mount and the glass so that you can actually look through the front glass of the poppies at the back. So a very, very nice effect. If you want to leave it like that, that works very well. However, I then decided I could probably do something a little different. And because I had that spare piece of paper drying, I thought I'd have a go at it. So let's see what I do with it. Right. I then decided to take some more paint, and this time I'm using a copper paint and burnt umber because I wanted to maybe do a bit of an abstract design. And I took a few leaves out of the garden, and also that's a string bag that you buy fruit in, onions and fruit and all that. So I'm after creating abstract textures on top of the tissue paper background. And one of my favorite things to use is paper doily. I know they're very old-fashioned. You do still find them, but I'm going to have a go at just using those three items and see, using burnt umber and some copper paint, and I'll probably use a sponge. I'll just see if I can work a few textures. So going into the burnt umber and just using the sponge on top of the doily, almost like the doily as a template, and just sponging it off. When you lift it off, you get these rather super abstract shapes coming through. So getting my arm out of the paint and just putting some burnt umber on top of the doily. And you can keep going until you're satisfied with the end result. Right, I'm going to have a go at using this fruit bag. I think it had brown onions or something in it. But once again, using a bit of the burnt umber and the sponge and just sponging off. I've no idea what the result is going to be. I'm really just playing around with an idea. See if I can produce anything that's going to look interesting. A little bit of copper this time. And these are all different acrylics that I've collected over the years. So it's not a particular brand that I'm using. They're just bits of acrylic. Dipping into the copper this time and stamping over the leaf with the sponge just to get a sort of leaf imprint and seeing what's happening there. You can be really experimental if you're going into a bit of an abstract background. So when I pull it off, I then discover I've got paint on the other surface. So I thought, right, I'll try printing it and see how that works. So using the dry side of the sponge, I tried printing it off. Quite pleased with that result. And really just playing around with it until I was happy with it. This time I'm deciding to put a bit more burnt umber onto the actual leaf and then print it off. And that gives you quite a nice effect as well. It's one of those things you've just got to be really experimental with. Once I've done that, I then decided to put a bit of colour. So I thought a bit of orange might work. Took a bit of orange paint, and this time I'm going to use a painting knife. You could use anything really, and just try and put a bit of paint across all the texture. It's lovely working on top of the tissue paper background because your knife skips along the top edge, so you don't get any straight lines at all. It's all very random, which I quite like. And I just kept working on this project until I was happy with it. A bit of copper at the bottom, a few lines. You could use felted pens, you could use anything. It's not going to be anything specific, it's just going to be a background. Using the edge of the knife, found a little bit of leaf stuck on, so I've gone around it and see if I can get more printing done from the leaf. But really playing around with this background and just having a look. Right, here's one I've done earlier. So you can see I've really put a lot more paint on it. I've done a few lines with a ruler, and I've put a base on it, and I've used a bit of the outliner on it here and there as well. And I just found that when I put it together with the painting, it really lifted the whole thing. So I'm randomly just getting everything off my table, making sure I've got it on the inside, putting the mount on, a bit fiddly, and then when I put the two together, I love the way that the transparency of the poppies, the paint that I used, shows this abstract image all the way through it. And that's going to be in my finished article. So I hope you have a go. You don't have to do the way that I've done it. You can explore the method that I've used. But I'm very pleased with the abstract, but just showing you that it's all painted on the inside of the glass, and then the mount is put on, and then the backing board, which I've done the abstract on, and I'd put a few spaces probably so that it's not pressed up against the mount, and you know, just showing you now that it's got a lot of texture, and I kept on going back to it and adding more and more and more, and I would of course put a final board on it, but loving the transparency of the paint. And there we go, that's the demonstration that I've done for you. Right, after all that mixed media and painting, I hope you've enjoyed my demonstration, and I look forward to seeing your results. Please visit my webpage, which is virtualartstudent.com, and you can always send me your results. Thank you very much.